Good morning, everyone. Uh, how's everybody doing today? Excellent. Well, I hope, and first I want to thank you for taking the time. I hope that today's session is going to give you what I would call a different perspective about how to approach this new challenge when we find ourselves in need for a new opportunity, a new challenge. And we find that the world out there is moving so fast and things are changing so quickly that is a little unnerving. That we feel sometimes that things are moving ahead so fast that it's really hard for us to catch up. We live in an era where we have the easiest and cheapest access to all the information available out there. But we don't have time. We don't have time to read every single article, every single paper, to search through every single site, but what we need to do in order to make this work for us. So, what I talk about is that we need a new GPS. And I tell people, think about it this way. When was the last time any of you used a paper map? Well, one person. And it's very unusual because today we trust these devices more than anything. We let them guide every day of our lives. When they beep, we pick them up, we check, we respond. When they say turn left, you turn left. Because if you don't turn left, someone else is going to be very unhappy on your car, say, Siri told you to turn left. What are you doing? What are you thinking? Right? This is the fastest way to get there. But when it comes to work, we don't have a Siri. We don't have a system that right now is telling us turn left right here, and you're going to make it easier and faster to your destination. So we need to create one. And this is what I've been doing over the past 3 years. So I'll share a little bit of my own story about in late 2015, I left a job and I found myself leaving a job at the worst time, right, that I could have chosen in the city of Calgary. So the oil and gas sector, I'm not an oil and gas person, was going through a massive basically transition. And I found that it was very difficult for me to find basically that next opportunity. So instead of writing resumes and trying to apply for every job, what I did is I took 2016 to talk to people, to talk to companies, trying to understand what is basically happening out there. What are the things that they really need from someone like me? I was fortunate to be able to do that because part of what I'm doing right now, and what we've been doing over the past 3 years, is to share basically part of that story with people. What I did back then that has helped me right now to change my perspective on what work really means and what being a worker can be for each one of us. Today, I have my own consulting company. I work across the nation. I have teams that work basically globally, that works for different clients. And I don't have one client in this province. I work all the time, but I don't work here. I don't work physically in Calgary. I don't work physically in Alberta, but I'm working all the time. I have clients in BC and Ontario, in Saskatchewan, in the US, in Latin America, and hopefully next year in Europe. Because what I did in 2016 was find out that there was a lot of other places and other organizations that could benefit from the knowledge and expertise that I have. And I'm not suggesting that all of that is going to work for you. What I'm saying is that you need to find your new map. You need to identify the things that are going to work for you. And in some cases, it's going to be, yes, I need to find work here in this city. But maybe, and hopefully, for some of you, the answer will be, I could find work somewhere else. I could do work remotely. I could add value to an organization even though I'm not physically there. Because the world today allows you to have calls for free, text for free, applications that are mostly free, that you can use to be productive regardless of where you are. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So now I'm going to set the tone because some of the things that I'm going to tell you are a little bit scary. And I want to create that impact because I want you to feel what others are feeling out there. And I know for some of you, this has been probably a long time. Hopefully for some of you, it's just basically kind of like the beginning of a new journey. But I want to show you, and more important, I want to help you listen how fast this thing is really moving. So the first part of this discussion is all about to show you how fast the world is changing and how difficult it is to keep up with everything that is happening out there. So I'm going to ask you for a moment to close your eyes and listen to this conversation. Just close your eyes, please. Bear with me and just listen to this conversation.
So how can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15. Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.? Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for? Just a woman's haircut for now. Okay, we have a 10 o'clock. 10 a.m. is fine. Okay, what's her first name? The first name is Lisa. Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd. Okay, great. Thanks. Great. Have a great day. Bye.
I'm going to ask you a question, and I just want you to raise your hand. How many of you think that the person getting the phone call was not human? The person getting the phone call. Just raise your hand. No, getting the phone call was not a human. How many of you think that the person making the call was not human? Yeah. So in this case, the person making the phone call was not a human. In that conversation, there was one entity that was not human at all. I'm a technologist. In my world, we call this the Turing test. And if you ever saw the movie The Imitation Game, basically the person that creates the system that hacks basically the Germany encryption, he was the creator of this test. And this test basically tries to identify in an interaction between two different entities if we can actually tell if the person on the other side is human or not. For years, we thought that this was going to be like, well, yeah, it's going to happen someday, but I won't be here to see that moment. And to be honest, the first time that I heard this earlier this year, I think it was in June or July of 2018, I jumped out of my couch. I was watching actually the keynote on television, and I jumped out of my couch when I heard for the first time the inflections of this new system that is capable not to imitate a voice, is able to speak and respond to the emotional interaction through the conversation. And the reason why I want to start with this is because this tells you everything about the current state of development of technology. And you can just close your eyes and start thinking about the use cases, the applications, the potential legal implications, the ethical implications of something like this. And I'm not saying that this is good or bad. What I'm saying is that it's real. And if today you take basically on your phone and you open the Google Assistant and you ask the Google Assistant, I want a reservation at this restaurant for next Wednesday between 7 and 8 p.m., the system will call the restaurant, will talk to the person, and will make a reservation for you, and will send you a text message saying, I'm done, and you have your reservation for next Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. What I'm trying to tell you is that for the first time in the history, you have a personal assistant that will do work for you, that is so capable that for the person on the other side of the line, it will feel like a normal conversation. So you can add capacity to your life when you're searching for a job, when you're trying to find that appointment, by using the technology that companies are using today to replace capacity. It's not just companies saying, oh, now we can have a call center full of all these people that can answer, basically, this machine, sorry, that can answer the phone and have all these conversations. You can use it as well. So think about, that's why I say, change the perspective. Use the technology the same way organizations are using it to replace some jobs today, because the use cases are there. And I talk basically about the need to reimagine what work is, what working really means, and more important, what learning it's all about. So the next basically section, it's all about to explain you why this is happening. Yes, we have technology. Yes, we have a lot of access to technology at a lower cost. Yes, we see that governments and organizations are changing the way they look for people and the skills that they need. But very few people stop thinking, it's like, why is this happening now? And the first thing that I share with everyone is because things are moving a lot faster. So I'm going to show you some examples about how fast technology evolution is really moving. So many of you are familiar with this slide, like how many hours of videos and photographs and money is being spent online. But I want to talk today about something that is a little bit more complex, a little bit more difficult to achieve, and it's dexterity. When you're born, it takes about a year, average, for a child to learn how to walk. It takes an entire, basically, 5 years, 6 years, in some cases, just to go through elementary school, and then 5 or 6 years to go through high school, and then another 4 to 5 years to graduate from university. We spend most of our lifetime at school learning. We spend most of our time learning how to become employees, how to become researchers, how to become something that the environment where we live really needs. Now, back in 2015, this is June 2015, DARPA, which is a research organization in the United States, they have an annual contest. And they choose a topic, and they say, hey, I want you to work on this. And they give you a full year for a research team to be prepared. And in 2015, they said, I think it's about time for us to work on autonomous machines. So the test basically, which is kind of like the Olympics for techie people, they said, we want to see a machine that is capable to do certain things autonomously. So a robot who can walk like 50 meters, a robot who can open a door, a robot who can go through obstacles. So this is what we got in 2015. People in the robotics research field back in 2015. There was not a single team that was able to complete all the projects, all the challenges. Not a single one. Back in 2016, a company out of Boston called Boston Dynamics was created. And they said, we're going to change the approach. We're going to look at things a little bit different. And they created a system that is called Atlas. So now this is 2017. So all of you were born back then, right? And this is what Atlas can do 2 years after the first exercise. So 2 years later, now we can do a backflip. Right? And that is interesting from a research perspective, but the application of that is somewhat limited. So this is earlier this year, and now they are releasing a lot faster new capabilities for this machine. So now this is Atlas. So now Atlas actually has a range of motion that could go at, I believe, up to 450 kilometers now on a fully charged battery. So this is just for a couple of, I think it's a month ago, a month and a half ago. Now Atlas is doing something even more interesting. So Atlas now is doing parkour. And it's been less than 3 years since the moment Boston Dynamics said, we're going to change how robotics and autonomous, basically machines, work today. The use cases and the applications of a machine like this are just starting to emerge. A machine like this can lift up to 350 kilograms with no problem at all today. So when it comes to environments that require heavy safety regulations, or to work basically in environments where humans could be affected because of environmental hazards, or we're looking at situations where the environment is so dark or is so cold or is so wet that humans could be at danger, the application of a system like this is going to be preferred over human. The assembly of these machines is becoming very cost effective. And the interesting thing is, from the moment this machine is created, it will know everything that needs to be known. It doesn't need to go to school, it doesn't need to spend time on learning or being trained or anything. Once one of them knows something, all of them will know it automatically. So the application of knowledge can be distributed really, really fast. So for us, it's going to be very difficult to compete in a space where machines like this are going to become available and very accessible for those organizations. So if I keep thinking that my future work resides in an environment where machines are becoming more and more efficient, I'm going to have a lot more challenges finding that opportunity. So what do? How do I basically reframe my current reality to adapt to this new environment? What some people are doing is that now they are becoming the teachers of these machines. And they're teaching these machines new capabilities that machines sometimes don't realize are needed to complete the job. We have a lot of knowledge, but the application of knowledge, it's a little bit different. So I know of some organizations in the States right now that are taking people and retraining them to become teachers of machines. And they have now a classroom where they work with software developers and hardware developers, teaching machines how to do things better. And their job is just to keep training these new partners so they can actually work together. So as I said before, you have to rethink your role. You have to reimagine what you need to do in order to coexist with these machines in this new reality. And the reason for that is very simple. We're moving away from a standard economy to now a network economy. And when the economy is connected, we can do things a lot faster. In the old days, banks, in order to get to you, they will open a branch in your town. If you were living anywhere else in Alberta and you needed banking services, a bank will open a branch in your community. Even today, a lot of people still wait to have a branch of RBC or TD or any financial institution in their local community. But the younger generation understands that banking is essential. Banks are not. So you can do banking anywhere, anytime, for any service, and you don't need a bank, a financial institution. It's all here. Why? Because now it's all connected. All these services, all these products, all these financial institutions now need to come to you. Now, if I'm a branch manager or a teller, and I see that my financial institution is starting to close branches, they're starting to replace basically their banking systems with new online banking systems and banking applications that are all digital, what do? Do I wait for them to close my branch, or do I say, I volunteer to be part of this new project? Right now, I'm working with the credit union sector, and over the next 3 years, we're changing 400 credit unions across Canada. All of them are going to digital banking. All of them. So what is going to happen? How my branch is going to look like in the future? So I have to rethink my role. I have to reimagine, how do I take what I know about customer service, customer engagement, and reapply that in this new environment where all the services are going to become digitalized. Okay? Are we on the same page here? Good. So let's look at organizations that have done this really quickly. Maybe some of you were here back in 1997. Maybe some of you were not here. But I still remember when I was able to get Netflix DVD movies. And they come to my house, and it was like a set of 3, and I could keep them for as long as I wanted. And Netflix really disrupted the market because they understood how reliable DVDs were. Sending a VHS over the mail was basically a total disaster. But sending DVDs, that was a great idea. And they made a ton of money, and they became the worst nightmare of Blockbuster. Back in 2007, they said, we have to use this thing called the internet and start basically streaming movies. And they became the first streaming service available out there. And it was awful. It was bad. The quality of the images were terrible. I remember testing it because it was free to do it. But they understood that if they kept doing what they were doing in the past, they were not going to survive. Because we know that if we keep doing the same thing and we expect a different result, that is the definition of insanity. So they said, we're going to bet the entire company on the internet. And they became, in less than 20 years, the most valuable media company in the entire world. Same thing. All of you have skills. And there are some skills that are stronger than others. Play your strengths. Don't waste time trying to become better at something that you're not. Become better at something that you are. Play your strengths and change your perspective. Now, construction is another big sector, almost in any country. And what I want to show you is how fast things are changing for people that are working in the sector of construction. So now this is a Chinese company, and in 24 hours, I can have a 3D printed home. And then it will take me probably another day or two to complete basically the rest of the house. And another crew will come in and put all the things that I need and really quickly have a community that can be built up from the ground up in less than a month. That today will take probably half a year at a minimum to complete. So we're going really fast in terms of the adoption of technology in areas where traditionally we need people. Next year, GM is going to be launching a new service. And this service is trying basically to address the excess capacity that we have today in the transportation world. If any of you have a car, you're using between 5 and 10% of that capacity on an annual basis. The 90% remains idle or wasted while you park your car either at home or at any other place where you go on a daily basis. So GM is saying, I don't want you to pay for capacity that you're not using anymore. I want you to pay for a service. Because what you need is transportation. You don't really care, basically, how it comes. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with Uber. Now, what basically the car manufacturers are doing is saying, I'm going to disrupt Uber at their own game. Because now you can get a car from BMW, from GM, Ford, Audi, any of those organizations at your request. If you need an SUV for the weekend, all you have to do is press a button and the car will come to you. Next year, they're going to start basically testing this service. So what is different here is that Uber driver is gone. The Uber driver, just a few years ago, came in and said, taxi driver, your history. Now, GM is coming and saying, taxi driver, Uber driver, you're going to be part of history as well. Because you don't even need those individuals anymore. So things are changing really quickly because we see that capacity out there, and the technology is enabling these organizations to take advantage of that and really quickly create a service that's going to solve the problem for you. A car is the second largest purchase for most people in our, basically, communities. Now, if you don't have to buy a car, but you can use any car, from the luxury car to the utility car, at a very reasonable price, that value proposition is going to win today, tomorrow, in 10 years. Doesn't really matter. If you can have the most luxurious car for $25 a day, you will pay it. Guaranteed. And that is the competition that is being created right now. So if I am an Uber driver today, and I'm thinking, I'm disrupting the guy that is driving the cab, I have to start thinking about this and making basically my next move. How do I create value in this new world? How do I reframe my skills? And that's what I say. Think about what you're really good at so you can start finding those opportunities that are out there. The second reason why this is happening so quickly is about mass personalization. Amazon is the king of retail. There's nobody else that's coming even close. Amazon can personalize your experience at a level that is almost impossible to achieve. They can change prices 2.5 million times per day. So when you see something, they've been analyzing your behavior for not just that day, the entire time that you've been an Amazon member. Walmart and Best Buy can only do 50,000 times per day. Now, I had the opportunity to be at this store in Seattle, and I want to show you how it feels. So Amazon is going to be opening 3,000 of their stores between now and the end of 2020. And what they're doing is they're removing the person that creates the highest level of friction in the entire experience of buying at a grocery store, which is the cashier. Usually you get there and you try to buy something, and that something it doesn't have a label. And you're like, oh, do you remember what was the price of this? No, I don't. Okay, let's call someone. And it takes 10 minutes for that person to go and find someone who will come in, will take the object, will go and find, and will come back and say, it was $2.99. And that basically, you wasted 10 minutes of your time because they could have a system in place to recognize this object. Most grocery stores will have between 10 and 15 cashiers basically on any given day, but only, I will say, less than half of that actually working, plus basically the self-service units in some cases. And what this does is removes all of that. So you don't have to worry about it. So what stores basically are doing, what Amazon is doing is saying, I don't want you to be basically at the till. What I want you to do is be talking to the client, educate the client, tell them exactly what they need to do about this product, become an expert on that particular product, and make them feel special. So you get there and there's someone, you have a question, there's someone right there, right next to you that is ready to answer any questions that you have about the product. Yes, the job of being a cashier might be done forever, but the job of being a customer service representative is not done. You still need them, and people want them, and they feel themselves a lot happier because they don't get that look like, yeah, okay, I know that you're not gonna be able to help me because we're here, and now you have to call someone else who can actually give me the answer that you need to do your job. Is that transition that is happening right now. So some people see this as the end of retail, while others see this as the beginning of retail. Finally, we're reaching a point where service is really the most important thing, not your payment. Because today, everything, the entire store, is designed around making you pay for the object that you took from a shelf. While this is designed to make you feel special because the payment is already done. You don't have to worry about that. And that's what makes things like Uber so enticing, because you get in the car and out of the car, and you don't have to worry about, do you have the credit card? Do you have the money? If I had cash, what's going to happen? All of those things are done. They're removed from the equation. Some of the jobs that we see also being affected are more simple, but they create a lot of value as well. Again, the idea is to complement the work that we do. Cooking burgers is something that many of us probably have done in the past. And one of the things that always frustrates me is that sometimes they get undercooked, sometimes they get overcooked. With this, they're always cooked at the same temperature. The quality is exactly the same, so the experience is going to improve. Again, the idea is that for these restaurants, to redeploy that capacity that now becomes available in other areas of the organization. So disruption is happening. It is inevitable, and it's happening really quickly. And almost, I can say that I can choose any sector and give you an example on how technology is taking over some of these activities and some of these jobs and some of these specific things that organizations need in a form of automation, in a form of robotics, or in a form of artificial intelligence. So I'm not here to tell you that this is not going to happen. I'm telling you that this is going to happen really quickly. But I hope you can start changing your perspective, finding opportunities in areas where maybe you're not even thinking about today that are available out there. So the second part of the conversation, it's all about sharing with you what companies are doing and how we can adapt to that new model, to that new intent of doing business. Because for them, this is a matter of survival. They know that if they don't do this, they will disappear as well. So it's not just about my job, it's about them as well. We are on this together. Companies basically are facing exactly the same challenges that we are facing today. Because, as I said earlier, banking is essential, but banks are not. And if banks don't do a great job offering you services in the way you need them, they will disappear as well. Right? Energy is essential. Combustion engines are not. And we see that. So we have to start basically accepting the fact that there is a new reality. That something is happening out there that is changing and affecting my industry, affecting my job. And it's how do I respond to that, what really matters. So I use an analogy. And I tell that all of us here, we were trained to be marathon runners. All of us. We were educated for endurance. My parents, they all worked for their company for 40 years. And they were expected to last 40 years in their organization. You get a job, you keep it, and then you basically spend the next 30, 40 years of your life, and you're grateful for that job that you had. In today's world, that expectation is gone. The millennials don't work that way. So for companies, it's kind of like a difficult thing to see that someone is willing to come in and work for me, but he or she is willing to go and change jobs a year from now. And it's totally okay. That is totally reasonable for them. But we're built for endurance. But now that we see that the world is moving so fast and so quickly, we need agility. We need to learn how to sprint. And learning to do that is quite different from anything that we did in the past. Our entire educational system is built for endurance. We spend 5 years elementary school and then another 4 or 5 years going through high school and university and everything else. It takes a long time to become professional. Today, you have basically individuals in third world countries that in 2 years are very proficient software developers. And they are 10, 12, 14, 15 years old, little girls. I know of a project in Rwanda right now where they have girls that are in junior high that are becoming basically experts in software development. Why? Because there's no barrier for them. They have nothing to lose and everything to win. Like for them, the world is already bad. So why not, right? If you're telling me you're going to teach me how to be a software developer, I'm going to say yes. And I will do whatever it takes to become that software developer. Because there is no plan B or plan C. This is already my reality. And anything that you give me is an opportunity to change my life and change my perspective. So our job is to become better at sprinting. And that sprinting is about learning something new. That sprinting is about connecting with people a lot faster. Finding that door that we need to open today, not a month from now, not a year from now. Because the opportunities are out there, guaranteed. But it's taking you too much time to recognize that you need to run instead of walk. And this is as scary as it feels for us, it's equally scary for organizations. I work with these companies, and I will tell you that 75% on average, their plans to become faster are failing. Last year, across basically North America alone, Companies invest more than $5 billion, $5 billion, in programs to help them run faster, and 75% of that money was wasted. So it's not an easy job. I'm not going to pretend that this is easy to do, but it's about helping each other, because some of you might be better at learning how to run faster than others. And I can learn from you. I can see you. I can talk to you. I can spend time with you so you can tell me, what do I need to do? You have organizations out there that are helping basically you to become more proficient on the language, on the technologies, on the tools, on the techniques that are needed so you can run faster. Because I'm assuming all of you have a digital profile today. You either have Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or any of these digital profiles. So you can reach places and people a lot faster. And you can ask for help a lot faster. And there's a lot of people out there willing to help. But it's up to you to run faster to that individual. It's up to you to understand what it means to be an agile professional. And I'm sure some of you have heard that word agile. And if you read right now, business literature, all of the consulting companies are saying every company is going to be agile. Every organization needs to become agile. And now they have roles like Scrum Master and Product Owner. And there are a lot of different new ideas, new ways of creating products and services and all of these things. And all of that is good. But the reality is that they're giving all of those new ideas to the marathon runner, not to the sprinter. And if you give this idea to the marathon runner, it's going to take that organization, that individual, a whole year before they realize that they need to run a little bit faster. So the goal is to learn quickly, to learn faster, and to apply that knowledge a lot faster to what we do on a daily basis. Being agile is not about learning a framework or a set of processes and methodologies. Being agile is about responding quickly to the changing environment. Whatever it is you need to do, that's what we're going to do. And it's not about doing everything perfect. It's about trying something new really quickly. And if it fails, that's okay. We learned something. We got that knowledge. We got that done. Let's try something else. And let's do it quickly and quickly and quickly. And if I get something good, then I slow down a little bit and I say, okay, now I need to think about it. I need to assimilate that knowledge because I need to know if I need to run faster immediately or I can take a little bit of time to settle down, catch my breath, and do something else. So think about that. Think about that. You've been a marathon runner throughout your career. Now you need to learn how to become a sprinter. And that is part of the change in perspective and mindset that we all need to go through. Because where most people see challenges, we also can see opportunities. We're entering a new era. And the next slides are about sharing with you what are some of those things that companies are doing right now that could benefit you if you learn how to become a sprinter. And there are basically 4 areas. A new area for motivation, working, learning, and that basically is what creates opportunities. So when we talk about the new era of working, there are 5 things that I want you to think about and remember. The first one is that everything that is wasteful, you have to get rid of it. The example that I used earlier, you're still spending time calling a restaurant to make a reservation. Ask your assistant. Now you have it. You spend a lot of time trying always to find individuals that can help you to do things on an analog basis. If I need to talk to all of you, I'm going to do it digitally. Because then I can send the message to all of you at the same time and get the 2 or 3 responses that can really give me the information that I need. Companies are doing exactly the same thing. We're moving from an era where we used to tell clients what they needed to consume to a new era where we listen. And they tell us what they need, and that's what we create. So for us, it's exactly the same thing. If we expect basically someone to be telling us what we need to do, it's going to take too much time. We need to change and now listen to what the organization is really asking us to do so we can move a lot faster. This is probably one of the biggest challenges for people right now, because we're finding that for people it's very difficult to accept the fact that a lot of the things that they do are driven by algorithms. But we have no problem accepting the fact that Siri is telling us turn left, turn right, your destination is 500 meters away on the left, and we accept that. We don't challenge that. But when it comes to work, we feel that is completely different. That we should not be paying attention to a software that is telling us right now, turn left, stop, turn right, do this, change that, adjust basically this equipment to a new setting. But that is the reality. Your boss might be just a piece of software that knows more about the system than we do. And just accepting that reality, it's going to make us feel better, because there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the way basically the world is going to work today. Back in 2015 or 16, let me see. This is 17, sorry. The Global Mail did an analysis about our country, and they found that on average, between 42 and 43% of our current jobs across the country are ready for automation. What I'm not saying is that all of them will be automated. What I'm saying is that portions of that will be automated over the next few years. Because companies, they need to move faster. They need to become the sprinter. And they're saying, I need to automate this in order to make it run faster. If I don't do it, I'm going to keep basically the marathon runner inside my organization. The next thing, and this is something that I am applying to my own life, I'm not hiring people anymore. And I'm recommending companies not to hire individuals anymore, but to hire teams. Because the time that it takes for an individual to be fully capable and fully competent is too long. Teams basically go through this process of what they call storming, forming, norming, and conforming. But if I change one of the team members, we go back to the storming phase all the time. Over and over again, companies go through this turnover phase where everything starts all over multiple times. And they never have that team that's a high-performance team. It takes years sometimes to get that done. So I hire teams. They know each other. Some of you might know each other and might be able to work together really well. And that's why I tell people, think about your strengths. If you're really good at something, find other people that are as good as you and see if you can sell that to an organization. Create your winning team. Find your Germany. I'm a soccer guy, so I speak in soccer terms. So find your Brazil, your Argentina. Build the team that is going to win the cup for you. And then go and say, I can compete with anyone and give you faster results, faster outcomes, because that is what makes the difference. If you don't come together, the fact that you're here is an opportunity to connect with each other, to learn about each other. And believe me, teams are going to win over individuals any day. So think about that. Because we need a new type of leader, right? Organizations right now are saying, I don't need the CEO to be the person that knows the most about what we do. That's in the old days. The new days, the new reality is we need the individual that can bring together the largest group of individuals to drive an outcome as quickly as possible. So they don't need basically expert making decisions. We already know that the boss is the software. It's the software who's making the decision. It's the software who understands all the variables, who can see all the inputs, who can be really closer to the problem. What we need is someone who has that ability to engage people and really quickly make them work faster. not by dictating what they do, but by driving purpose in what they do. Because the new reality is being faster is the new big. Companies that learn how to be great sprinters are going to win over companies that are big every day. And we see that all the time. The next aspect is we need to relearn how to learn. We need a new era of learning. This is from the Future of Jobs Survey 2018. And if there is a document that I recommend to you read, is this report. I'm gonna send Chris this whole thing in PDF. And at the end of the presentation, there is a link that I want you to click on and go and read this document. It's a fairly long document, but what it gives you is perspective on what's happening out there. And you can see how we're moving basically a lot of the capacity from humans to machines over the next 4 years. And again, that is just reality. So what I need to do is think about how that affects me and my skills and where the opportunities are for me to complement part of that transition to machine work. If my job has a lot of routine activities, it's going to be at risk because everything that is routine oriented will disappear. Making a phone call is routine. Writing a report is routine. Taking notes is routine. Everything that has a process attached to it that you have to follow from step 1 to step 10 can be automated and will be automated. As I said earlier, the future is about collaboration. So if you're not connected, if you don't learn how to work together, you're going to be in trouble. The single worker, the expert that used to know everything, and everybody was like, oh, you're the expert, you know everything, and we have to basically be nice to you because you sit in this pedestal that no one can touch, it's gone. Because now a machine can learn that and more in multiple times and apply it in any industry. But working together with machines and people, that is different. If you're okay with that, that's going to make you a more productive and desirable employee for this organization. This is something that I tell not just individuals, but organizations, is how do we help people learn? And there's something that is growing right now across multiple industries. It's called microlearning. And the idea is that they will give you the knowledge that you need, when you need it, where you need it, and in the right amount of information that you need to do the right job at that particular moment. So when they say, oh, there's a performance review, the microlearning is, how do we provide effective feedback to my boss? Because what we do today is we spend a whole year teaching people how to do something. But that person is going to start using that system a year later or 2 years later because the implementation of the project is going to come basically in 2019 or 2020. So we're changing the approach and we're saying, no, that is a waste of time and money. Let's educate someone, right, how to basically run an unbiased interview while we're interviewing candidates right here, right now. So that person will go on training the day before, and then the next day, he or she interviewing people. So the memory still fresh in our heads. We still know what we need to do. We're applying knowledge at the right time for the right reasons, in the right context. That is a change. And it's up to us as well to do the same thing. I don't want any of you to be spending a lot of time learning about something new that you're not going to apply immediately. Think about what's going to happen in the next 30 days and focus your learning on the next 30 days. Learn something that you can use right now. So if you're thinking about applying to a company that is doing A, find everything that is related to that knowledge and learn about it. Don't waste your time. Be very mindful of the time you spend learning, especially when it comes to new learning, because you don't have all the time in the world. You need more time to come to events, to engage with people, to participate in other sessions. So you have to be very mindful about the way you use your time for learning. Because we talk about this and we tell organizations, you need more transferable skills. And that is all about finding ways to work together. If you look at basically what is transferable, it's mostly about relationships, collaboration, being able basically to apply the information, being able to listen, right, and to remember basic concepts. People talk about this and they say that the era of the knowledge worker is done. The knowledge worker is the expert, the person that knows everything. Now we're moving to what some are calling the digital worker. I'd rather use the learning worker because the next few years of our life, hopefully the next 20, 30, 40, 50, are all about continuous learning. It's not that you're going to learn something new and you're going to stop and you're done for the next 25 years. No, it's the opposite. Because you're going to learn a lot less, but more often. So you need to keep doing this over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's not going to stop. If you stop learning, you stop moving. And if you stop moving, you're not even a marathon runner. And we need you to be a sprinter. Some people say, well, is my job going to disappear? And I said, maybe, probably. You know what? In some cases, the chances are actually pretty high. But I remind people that 11 years ago, nobody in this planet had the title of iPhone developer. Or Android developer. I believe that the number of jobs out there are going to be incredible. But it's up to us to learn what we need to learn to become that perfect match for the opportunity. So this is my view. This is my personal view. I try not to focus on fighting the old, but really building the new. So think about what is going to happen next, because the opportunities are out there. The first thing, I ask people, do you want to be a remote worker or not? For some people, the answer is like, yes. Others is like, no way. And others like, I don't know, never tried it. And that's okay. From my experience, my personal experience, this is just me, I love it. It gives me so many things that I never had before that I'm in love with the idea of being a remote worker. I never had it before, never done it. 3 years ago, I started doing it, and now I want to do it for the rest of my life. It gives me freedom, and I love that. For some people, that's not what they want, and that's okay. I'm not saying that there's right or wrong answer. I'm just saying that it has to be something that connects with you. The data says that remote workers are very happy people, and we'll see that. And some of you probably heard about the term the gig economy. The gig economy is not just about being a person that works multiple jobs. It's a person that has a different view on how to work and how to use basically the skills that he or she has. Companies right now are really thinking about this because they said, well, if banking is essential, but banks are not, how can I become something else and use the knowledge, capacity, and expertise that I have as a bank to do something different? The perfect example of this is Amazon. Amazon, we often forget, was a website that used to sell books. And then they start selling DVDs. And then they're starting selling some products. And now they basically will sell you anything you want, even your healthcare. So companies will go through this transitional period of becoming something else. And guess what? Some of you might end up working for a company that you never thought you will work for. And that's where I say, change your perspective. Understand that some of these organizations are changing. They're thinking about becoming something else. And if you're there, at the right time with the right skills and the right attitude, you might be that person. So the employers that we see all the time as our candidates might not be the employers that we actually need to see or need to apply for in the future. Waste, take it out. This is what companies are doing right now. Right now, I'll give you some data. 75% of what we wear ends up in the landfill globally. Plastic is the #1 polluter in the world. So companies are saying, how do I eliminate waste? And eliminating waste is not just about saying, oh, I'm going to have a new fabric that is going to have this. No, there's a lot of elements in every process, in every step of production, development, design, manufacturing that needs to change. We're not exempt to that. We have to think about how much time we waste, how many resources we have wasted throughout our lives, and think about waste as an enemy and really understand where the priorities really are for us. We're moving now to a world that is fully decentralized. This is probably one of the biggest changes, and I would love one day to have a conversation about this. And probably many of you have heard about blockchain, or some of you have heard about digital currencies like Bitcoin and Ripple and things like that. This is basically part of that evolution. We're moving into a world where your creation will be yours forever. I'll give you the perfect example. Many of you have worked for many companies throughout your life, right? And some of you probably have done really incredible things for those organizations. But once you leave, all that intellectual property that you created for them is theirs forever. In the future, we'll be able to retain that intellectual property that we have created forever and be compensated for that knowledge and creation of value for as long as that creation exists or is being used. So today, what companies do is they copy things. In the future, they will license things. So we're going to share ownership of things. And that's why I keep telling people, play your strengths. Because if you have something that is really valuable, find a way to connect yourself with individuals that understand how to decentralize that, how to share that with the world. Because I can guarantee that if you do something really well, there's someone else, somewhere else, that really needs that. The crowd wins. And you are part of the crowd. Connect with the crowd. Connect with those organizations and networks that can help you expand your marketplace and create new opportunities. So now we need to connect all of that together, and it's all about motivation. And I can give you all the inspiration and the energy that I have, but the motivation is intrinsic. You are the one who wakes up every day. You are the one who decides what to learn every single day. You are the person that is really making a difference in your life. Oh, sorry. And one of the biggest challenges that we have is we have a very diverse workforce. And we need to work with people that are very similar to us and others that are completely different. And we don't know how they work, and we don't even know how they make it in life. So we have, for the first time, 4 generations in the workforce, and that is a big challenge. So we need to learn how to embrace that diversity, not just in terms of age, but how we do things, how we connect with each other, what is our work ethics, and how do we basically help each other to become more productive. Because for companies right now, and this is something that I hear all the time, CEOs said, I have no problem posting a position and getting 300 candidates. That is not a big deal. I can get you as many candidates as you can imagine or you want to evaluate. The problem is I'm not getting people that are speaking my language. Because a lot of the candidates that I get, they're experts on everything, but they're not interested in creating value. And especially in these newer organizations, It's all about value creation. They do care about profits and margins and everything else, but they want to see you as a contributor, as someone who can create basically that social value that they are really looking for. So think about this as your development plan. What are the skills that you need? What are the outcomes that you want to drive? Because for you, especially as someone that is looking for an opportunity, this is the biggest challenge right now. I challenge basically CEOs right now because they put your resumes through an ATS, okay? And the ATS doesn't care about who you are. It only cares about the keywords that you use. Okay? So all of them are saying, I need employees that are motivated, that they're self-starters, that they have this empathy and emotional intelligence that I'm looking for. And I said, all of that sounds amazing. So stop using your ATS. Because that's not what's going to give you that kind of employee. So it is a challenge because we are using a lot of these tools, but we are creating a profile, an ideal employee that we cannot get through these systems. And that is a problem. And that's why some organizations are saying, I'm going to change my strategy. And instead of hiring one individual, then I just get a team that is already here, a team that has the purpose, the passion, the empathy, the strength, who can actually see each other, feel each other, work with each other, and be very productive and efficient. So I don't have to worry about that anymore. So that changes how we see ourselves. That is going to change how organizations really see opportunities for individuals and teams in the future. This is a survey from Aon on employee engagement. And the number one issue that I see right now with employees is unhappiness. They're disengaged from the organization. And I'm going to tell you what is the number one reason for that. They are told all the time what to do. They say, we have this new system, and we're all going to adapt it, and this system is going to create all this revenue opportunities, so it's going to make us more efficient, it's going to cut costs, or it's going to create better engagement opportunities for our clients. And that basically is a difficult message to sell to someone that is working all the time, that is busier than ever, and doesn't have time, basically, to really think about the impact of these changes across the organization. So employees gradually, they say, again, and again, and again, and again. And I don't want to do this anymore. Right? So that's why we have to basically start finding ways to re-engage the employee. And I know many organizations are working on it, but it's a challenge. Because, again, the world is moving really, really fast. Sorry. People ask me this all the time. Are we going to see more jobs? What is going to happen? And the Guardian, this is an article from the Guardian, aggregate all the jobs that have been created and destroyed by technology. And the numbers are just staggering. Technology has created more jobs than ever. And I believe that it will continue doing that. But this is not different than coming to Canada and not speaking English. You spend the time, you learn a few words, you struggle, you learn a few more, you struggle, you learn a few more, and you keep struggling until at some point you feel that you can speak the language really well. The language of technology is not different. You have to basically expose yourself to it. You have to decide if you want to speak French SQL or you want to speak English web programming or Spanish robotics or something like that. and spend the time. Learn it. Expose yourself to it. Because that is what's going to give you the opportunity to apply for that future job. If you don't practice the language, it's just going to go away. You need to use it all the time. And I have younger kids at home. I have 2 girls, and they're 7 and 9. And I spend more time with them trying to explain how things work. We put together little pieces of code using Scratch, which is a language for kids, not with the purpose of them becoming software developers or programmers, but for them to really understand how things work. Why this device is going to go straight and then turn left. Well, I can create instructions to all of that so we can show them the effect of technology in real life, how that affects objects. We use the web all the time. We use mobile apps, but we don't stop and think about how that is really changing my personal life, how I could take advantage of some of those things to do new things. Becoming a programmer is not a job for the future. Why? Because machines will do that for you. What you need are designers or thinkers, people that will find the reasons why that program should exist. That's why I have chosen this image. Because for me, this is a representation of that challenge that we have inside. I hope that most of you have seen the movie The Matrix. If you haven't, highly recommend it. It's my favorite movie all time. So the 2 characters are exactly the same. On the left, on your right is Neo, that represents the good. On the left is Agent Smith, represents basically all the evil machines in the world. The reality is they are part of the same construct. And we face this all the time. We struggle with each other. We struggle with the decisions we make. We struggle because things are not working, because I'm sending, 10, 20, 50. I heard last week someone who sent 1,500 resumes without a response. And my answer to that is you have to balance yourself, because this is a fight that happens all the time. If you keep just wasting your time building resumes over and over and over again, you're not paying attention. You have to stop and think, and more important, ask for help. Don't be afraid. There's a lot of people out there and organizations out there that can help you. Sometimes we have the answers. Sometimes we don't. And as I said, I could be really good at something and really bad at something else, and that's totally okay. That doesn't make me any worse than who I am already. So we need help from each other. We need the support of each other, because we can learn from each other. We need that balance in our life to really make progress. You're not going to become a sprinter just by sending resumes over and over and over again. At the same time, you're not going to become a sprinter if you don't send any resumes at all. So both situations are bad. Right? If you spend all the time just talking to people and you didn't do your homework and then start building your profile and really applying for those opportunities, that's equally bad. So think about waste. Think about how to balance basically that need for answers and the need for engagement in new learnings. So I hope some of you are familiar with the Jetsons, right? And this was a TV show created in the 60s because they wanted to reimagine the future. And a lot of the things that the Jetsons basically did back then are real today. Some of them are not. We still don't have the flying cars, at least not in the next year or two. I've seen them in Dubai, but they're not going to be mainstream anytime soon. But what I want to show you is if we have to reimagine the Jetsons today, how basically that movie would look like. And the challenge is for you to reimagine yourself. You're here in Calgary, but you're also in this entire planet. And this entire planet is connected. And you can connect with anyone, anytime. I can just tap on my phone. I was born and raised in Colombia, and talk to any family member right here, right now, on a video call for free. So the world is this size. This is the size of the planet. And you have access to every corner of it. If you decide that this is Calgary, this is the only space that you want to live in, it's your choice. But you could live anywhere and connect with anyone because you have access to them. And this is not just about family members. This is about anyone that you need to connect to. So let's take a look at what basically Jetson in the future will look like. The reason why I want to share this video is because I told you earlier that it doesn't really matter who you are, either as an individual or as an organization. You have to reimagine yourself in the future. This is a steel manufacturing company. And you think about that, and it's like, wait a minute. That's not the way steel manufacturing companies basically market themselves today. They're not basically, when you see that, and if you're a potential employee, you think, I'm going to be working for that company? That looks actually really cool. It looks like they want to use technology. They want to change the future. They want to drive a different view of the world. You have to do that for yourself. It is your responsibility to do that. Because that's how companies are reimagining themselves. And if you keep thinking that your company is going to look the way and feel the way it did for the past 20 years, or 10 years, or 5 years in some cases for some of you, you're missing a tremendous opportunity. The future is about understanding how the technology is going to be applied in your particular areas of expertise, how you engage with more people, and how you create value. All of these videos are on YouTube. I'll make sure that Chris basically and the talent pool, they have copies of all of this information, and you get copies of all of this, because you have to see the future in order to desire basically to be part of it. And this is basically what organizations out there are doing today. So I hope that this session today was useful, that gave you some ideas, because as Mr. Marcus Shingle said, over yourself before you get Kodak. It's all about reimagining ourselves. There is no limit to what we can do. As I said, all of you have an executive assistant in your pocket. Use it. Find other tools. Find other products. Find other people. Create new connections. And thank you very much for your time. Happy to answer any questions. If anyone wants to be the first person that I will throw this, let me know. Any questions? I'll do it because there you go.
I got it. So a lot of great ideas. Thank you very much. I'm looking across the room here. I see a lot of people that are probably looking for work.
Yeah.
And we want to be motivated, but the key at the end of the day is to get a job, you're either going to have to craft that resume and that cover letter. Like, how can I take these awesome skills and translate them into my resume and cover letter? So when an employer, first of all, it has to get past the ATS.
Yes.
So then an employer gives it the 1 minute or the 5 minute skim. He reads that resume and says, this guy is a learner. This guy is a collaborator. This guy does these things.
Thank you so much. I'll give you the way I did it. And I'm not sure if that is going to help you, but I'll tell you. I started basically using these ideas on my digital profile. 100% of my clients are referrals from someone else. So this is people that saw me doing this online. And when they found someone who was needing that kind of individual, they said, I know someone, and I'm going to send you his link to his LinkedIn profile. And they went and look at it and they say, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Because, again, if I don't create any differentiator, I'm just going to be another resume on the ATS. And for me, applying to jobs was not really the option. I need to create a presence that has basically some value propositions that makes me different from anybody else. Because people are looking at that all the time. If you go back to this slide and see how many hours a day we spend looking at LinkedIn, is phenomenal. So you want someone who is looking at your profile on a regular basis and saying, sorry, your name is James, and say, wow, James always talks about these things. And now I know someone who is looking for a candidate with those skills or the kind of ideas. Now I can say, hey, James, I know of this opportunity. Would you be interested? I know the person. So for me, because of the skills that I have, that works really well. I'm not saying that that's going to work for everybody, but spend the time. Think about that. Building resumes is good, but it's not the only option. There are other options. Connecting with people, for me, is the most important thing. And I invite any of you, to send me an invite on LinkedIn. I will accept it. I respond to every message, and I have no problem making introductions. All I'm asking for people is to take care of their LinkedIn profile the same way they take care of their home. It has to be clean. It has to be nice. It has to be organized. It has to tell something about yourself. That is your house. It's your digital house. And you have visitors coming to your house. And if your house is a mess, I'm not coming back. Right? So think about it that way. Does that answer your question, James?